Hi, everybody. Welcome to Backyard Eden Live. We are so glad to be here again. Um, Hopefully, we will have any of those sort of technical difficulties fixed by now. I hope so. So, if you are new to the Thursday morning live show, we are basically going to do this every Thursday morning at this time, and we are going to use this hour, if you will, to talk about prepping. Um, Prepping is, to me, a very important thing, and it's something that needs to be taken very seriously. And it's not something that you have to go out and have the very top of the line of products for it. So you can have the basic items, what I like to call the practical prepping items, and you can be just fine. So we are going to use this hour each week to talk about things that you can do so that your prepping can get better. Now, let me just share a little bit about myself. We do have our homesteading and gardening channel here on YouTube, and we've been doing that for about a year. But myself, I've been a prepper for a number of years now, and I've had a stockpile in the past and a number of different preps for our family in the past. Now, over the last couple of years, we've kind of got a little bit more relaxed. Shame on me. And now we are basically having to start or having to start from scratch. So, with that being said, that's kind of where we're going to pick up. What you need to do to get started. So, but first and foremost, let's talk about the idea of prepping. September, guys, is National Preparedness Month. And what that basically means is the government is essentially saying that, you know what, it is important for you to be prepared. It is important for you to have certain things on hand. And they've made September National Preparedness Month. So what that means is they're trying to raise awareness of being prepared. And the reason for that, guys, is if you look in sort of the recent history, and you can see the number of things that have happened that you would need to be prepared for. So let's just look in the immediate history and let's talk about natural disasters such as hurricanes. Now, I will like to take the time right now to really send out our thoughts and our prayers to the people that were affected by and are still affected by Hurricane Florence. It is a very difficult thing. We've been affected by a hurricane as well. Thankfully, right now, we do not live in an area that is regularly affected by hurricanes. We live in northeast Texas, just a little bit outside Dallas, and so we're not affected by hurricanes other than some excessive rain. We can get some excessive rain, and that can cause some flooding in our town, surprisingly enough. But our town, when it was built, they really didn't do the best job in how they manufactured or how they built the streets. So there are some areas that can be flooded. So I want to take this time to really send out our prayers and our thoughts to the people affected by Florence. We are thinking about you, we are praying for you, and we hope to see you back on your feet soon. But so let's talk about hurricanes. So that's one of the natural things that you really, I mean, we have no control over that. Yeah. Hello from Zero to Homestead. That's awesome. Uh, Great to have you here. North Georgia. Wow, North Georgia in the house. Yes, and so I can totally understand how that would just miss you. I'm thankful for that. Like I said, we don't get those here, but we did just I'll say a few years ago. But in 2008, we lived in Houston. I shared this last week, but we lived in Houston and we were affected by Hurricane Ike, and so we had to essentially we didn't I guess we didn't have to, but we chose to evacuate. We had moved. We were in an apartment down there, and we chose to evacuate. And while we were gone, so we missed most of the actual storm, but we lost really pretty much everything that we had food wise, and a lot of our material things as well, because of flooding and different things. Of course, power outages and things like that. So we've been there. My wife used to live in Louisiana, so she's very familiar with the idea of hurricanes, uh, and so. But basically, the idea here is those hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, all of those types of things are not anything that we can really do anything about. There's nothing that we can say or do to stop that. And so the idea of national awareness or National Preparedness Month is essentially causing us to think about, well, what do we have in place? What plans do we have in place? What stuff do we have on hand that will get us through that? And so essentially, the idea here is, the basics are food, water. Of course, you have shelter, but you got to think about, well, if I have to leave here, where am I going? So you got to think about that as well. And that's the idea, is a lot of the places that Florence hit, a lot of those places are having a lot of flooding. They're having to evacuate or really just stand their ground as best they can. And that's causing a lot of issues. And so there are things that we can do to be a little bit better prepared for that. I'm not going to say you can ever totally be prepared for any one thing. And definitely, there are ways to improve on each and everything that we prep. And so, there's a lot of things to consider. I think for example, I think where I would start is understanding and knowing the area. Okay, so from Zero to Homestead said, okay, so they're originally from Central New York. Wow. So Central New York to Georgia. I like where your head's at. Um, so you had to deal with extreme amounts of snow consistently from October through May. Sometime. Okay, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I'm not a big fan of cold weather. uh, as I've shared before, I'm definitely not crazy about cold weather. So yeah, and that's something you have to consider if you live, if you live in an area that gets a considerable amount of snowfall every year, then you got to think about, several things there. You got to think about, well, do you have enough heat? Do you have enough uh, fuel supply for whatever heating source you have? If you have a wood burning stove, do you have enough wood to get through? If you have, propane heat, do you have enough propane to get through? And so there's a lot to consider. So probably the first thing you would want to consider is the area that you live in. So if you live in, like, for example, we live in Northeast Texas, and we'll use me as an example. because it's hard to know each and every person's area. But we live in Northeast Texas, and so what affects us the most is going to be different than what would affect someone that lives in Central New York, or what would affect someone that lives on the Florida coast, or someone that lives in the high desert. And so the location is very specific. The things that will affect those areas are specific, and so that's where you need to start with where you live and start thinking about what's going to affect you. You don't want to prep for a hurricane if you live in the high desert. I think you would be way off base there. So think about the area you live in. So for us in Northeast Texas, we live in sort of an interesting place. We're in a suburb of Dallas. So our urban homestead is on 0.14 of an acre. So that right there limits a lot of the things that we could do in order to be prepped for certain situations. It would be incredibly hard for us to bring in a lot of really anything. So thinking about the area we live in, my first thing that I'm going to start doing in order to prepare a little bit better is I'm going to look and put together a map of the area that we live in. Now, if you talk about skills that have been lost over the years, map reading is a skill that we've lost. I can't tell you how many times that this doodad right here, I can't tell you how many times that when you ask a kid, well, where's something at? They're going to the almighty Google. And so, I've had kids that have no idea where they live, couldn't tell you how to get there. And so that's a serious thing. And so I'm going to start with a map. And that, you may think that's a little odd, but I'm going to take a map and I'm essentially going to come up with a different exit strategy, several different exit strategies and ways to get out if we have to get out. I don't know right now really what situation would cause us to get out, other than, something like a tornado, that after the fact that we're going to have to get out. But you really got to start with your area, knowing what things could affect you. So let me just ask you right now, in your area, do you know the situations that could affect you? So from Zero to Homestead, you're in North Georgia. What's those things that could affect you? That's where you got to start. Once you know the things you need to prep for, then you can start making an actual plan in what you need to store. So the most important items for me are food, water, first aid, and probably fire. And the reason I say that, and I made this comment somewhere else, I believe it was on one of my YouTube videos, but we have a wood burning fireplace. And so having a way to get that started, as well as some wood, in order to have, because that's an additional heat source. Everything else we have here is electric. So, excuse me. So if the power goes out, we have no heat. So we do have a little bit of a stockpile of some wood in the backyard. And we do have some matches and things of that sort. So that it's not prep for a long period of time, but it's definitely something we have covered so far. We'll need to improve on it, but it's something that we can already check off the list, if you will. So we're going to start with food, water, and first aid. As I've shared before, our family is a family of 7. We have my wife and I. We have a 12-year-old daughter and 4 other adorable kiddos. So we have a big family. So when you think about food and water, that's a lot to store. So what we're going to start with, and I recommend just the very minimum here, is I'm going to start with a 3-week food supply. Now, that's going to differ depending on what family, how many people's in your family, what resources you have on hand. Do you have a garden? Those things can factor into that. But I'm going to start with 3 weeks. So, with that being said, I did get started on it, just slightly started on it a couple of weeks ago. I did go out and buy a couple of cases of bottled water to store, and those are just a very minute start to it. Um, but my wife and I have agreed we want to make a better effort of preparing in those areas. And so that's where we're going to start is food, water, and first aid. And so what preps are you starting with? Or what preps have you already started with? Let's go back and talk about the National Preparedness Month thing again. Um, what do you think of this? What do you think of National Preparedness Month? And what do you think the government is trying to get across to us? Because I think they're taking a step in the right direction. I don't think this is. I mean, you can look at the graphic. You can look at the graphic here, and you can see that they're just looking at the very basic things. You can see here that you've got kind of a cloud with rain. You've got fire. You've got a snowflake. You've got a tornado. And I'm not really sure what the other thing there is, but they're targeting those natural things, those natural disasters here. And if you go back and look at those things throughout history, you think that's Earth? Yeah, that might be an earthquake. That's a good point. Good point. That may be an earthquake. So if you go back and you look at these natural disasters and you look at kind of the response, you look at the government's response to these natural disasters, and if you think about how long it would take for FEMA to get to you, essentially, it's going to take time. It takes time for them to organize, for them to get to you. And you got to also think about, if there are things in their way to get to you. So if everything is flooded and they're trying to get to you, it's going to take a lot longer. So I think that's the idea here. I think that's the goal of National Preparedness Month, and that's what they're trying to get across to you. Is it's very important for you to take the initiative, for you to have some plans, some preps in place so that you can withstand at least a couple of days or maybe a week, um, so that relief efforts can get to you and help you out. I know that most of the time, and it's going to vary depending on your power company, but most of the time when something serious like a hurricane or something like that comes through, your power, it can vary, but I mean, you're looking probably at least a couple of days before they get power back on. And I've seen it go as long as 2 weeks without power. Um, and the same thing would apply to, roadways. It's going to take a few days. If your roads are flooded, it's going to take a few days for you to be able to get out. And I know I was watching Breakaway Homesteader on Tuesday, believe it was Tuesday night, on their live stream, and they were talking about the amount of flooding that they're having there and what the flooding did to the roadways. And so you got to think about, even after the roadways are clear, what damage did the floodwater do to the roads? It can wash away roads. It can cause sinkholes depending on, how bad the flooding is. And so are you going to be able to get out even after the flooding or whatever is happening? Are you going to be able to get out? And on the same note, are people going to be able to get to you? So, you got to think about, you know, the relief effort. Are they going to be able to get to you after the fact? And so you want to have extra things on hand. From Zero to Homestead said you always should have stockpiles, wood, etc. And that's very true. You want to have those things on hand. You want to have firewood on hand, enough for several days, a couple of weeks. It just depends on if that's your only heating source or if that's one of your heating sources. You want to have things like food on hand and water on hand. And basically, guys, it's in our control. We can control what preps we have. We can control how prepared we are. Even if we cannot control the natural disaster or whatever uh, situation we're prepping for. And so we're going to, take this hour each week and we're going to look at different situations um, that we could have to prep for. I will go ahead and say this now, and I probably will have to say it again, but we will not be looking at prepping for a zombie apocalypse. As fun as that is to watch on a TV show, I love The Walking Dead. I love that show. And Fear the Walking Dead, love the show completely, love that whole genre. And it's awesome to watch movies about it. But, that's not something that my family is prepping for. And so we're going to be looking at things that could actually happen, and things that do happen. And we're going to talk about kind of how to prep for those things. So take a quick second right now, and I want to show you our social medias. We are on practically every social media. I say practically every social media because I'm sure there's some out there we're not on. But it is Backyard Eden pretty much on all of them with the exception of Twitter, and that is Backyard Eden 1. So we're going to start taking each of these social media accounts and really start reaching out to and raising awareness for preparedness. And we're going to be posting tons of different things there. So if you want to stay connected with us, if you want to see new things and pictures and our progress, definitely check us out over there. As well as if you want to be a part of our Facebook group, it is Backyard Eden and Friends. And this is basically a group, guys, that we started so that we can get together on kind of a normal basis and for us to share pictures with you and for you to share pictures and what you're doing with us. So if you want to join to that, definitely jump on over there, request to be in the group and join in our conversation. Share what you're doing on your homestead and what you're doing to be prepared. So now that that's all the way out of the way, back to what we were talking about. So I've already bought a couple of things in order to start our new stockpile. So what I've looked at right now is I've bought some water. I will continue to buy water. I don't think I'll ever. It's really hard to have enough water stored. Most sites would recommend you have a gallon of water per person per day. And so that's going to be really tough for us. I don't know. I really don't know anyone that would be able to store enough water for extended periods of time. And so, with that being said, we're going to store probably a 3-week water supply, um, as well as the water purification tablets. And we'll also be investing in a the water straw, if you will. And so we'll be investing in that. We'll have bottled water as well as gallon water. And in the spring, I'm going to be setting up a water catchment system outside. Yes, yes, the life straw. Thank you. I couldn't remember what it was called. I did just look at it online, and I did look at it at Walmart. And so I don't know if it was that particular brand, but I looked at one just, matter of fact, just this morning at Walmart. And so, yes, definitely something to have on hand. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, who can store water? I mean, for an extended period of time. Even if you're just one person, that's a gallon of water a day to drink. So if you are trying to store for an extended amount of time, a year, that's 365 gallons of water for the year, and that's just drinking water. So you got to think about water to cook with, water to bathe with, and so I just that's a lot of water. And so we're going to start with a 3-week supply or a 21-day supply. So, okay, yeah, you have 10 of them. Sweet. Yeah. We'll be buying, we'll probably have, I don't know, 10's probably a pretty good number. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good number. So, we'll look into and possibly even try to find them wholesale. I don't know. I'm incredibly frugal. I don't like paying full price for anything. My wife knows that if she needs to find a good deal or if she needs something negotiated, that I'm the person to send in. And I have the ability to talk and somehow talk my way into or out of some pretty interesting situations. So, but we may look into trying to find some wholesale deals. But that's kind of our plan for water. So from zero to homestead, do you have what is your water storage like? Do you store bottled water? Do you store gallons of water? Do you have rain catchment? What is your system like? I'm curious because, like I said, in the spring, I think I'm going to set up a water catchment system or a rain catchment system. Unfortunately, our house where we live, we rent, we don't own, but our house doesn't have doesn't have a gutter system at all, and so I'm going to have to look into a way of doing that without really sticking out the money to put a gutter system on the house. Because if you're not familiar, guys, if any of you are not familiar, my wife and I, we are looking for, if you will, the perfect property for us. We are wanting to find property and buy our forever homestead. And so hopefully that will happen in the near future. But ultimately, it will happen in God's timing. Whenever He says it's time, that's when that will happen. So, okay, so you catch water in IBC tanks. Gotcha. 550 gallons. Okay, nice. Yeah, so that's definitely a way to do it. Like I said, I'm really thinking about doing the rain catchment in the spring. I would do it right now, but I've got so many other projects kind of on my plate that just adding anything else would be crazy. And so right now I'm just going to buy bottled water. and some gallon jugs of water, and just see how far I can get prepped on just that. And then look at, the options for storage in bulk, if you will. So IBCs or, food grade drums or whatever that could be. And then as far as food, the same kind of rule applies. We're going to start with a 21-day supply. And, we're a family of 7, so that's going to be sort of interesting. So I've already bought some different things. I've bought some beans, um, some rice, some different canned foods. And so I've kind of already got some things rolling there. And, but basically the goal for me is I'm going to, yeah, maybe, maybe MREs. I've heard that those are pretty good. Um, I have not used them in the past, but I am very curious because I know that the life of them I mean, the life expectancy of an MRE is fairly good. And so it's something I could look into. I did look into some of the sort of pre-packaged MRE type substitutes, the different brands and things that you can, get the freeze dried here and different things. And I'm not too sure of the different brands that I've seen so far. And so that's definitely something to look into. I've also thought about joining uh, Strive Life, I think. Thrive Life? Thrive Life. Thrive Life is what it is, I'm pretty sure. Um, Big Family Homestead does it, but it's basically they are a representative for Thrive. It's a freeze-dried food company. And so I've thought about doing that, joining that, and using that as a way to kind of prep some food items. And so I don't know. What's your thoughts? Have you tried the MREs before? Some aren't bad. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so some aren't bad, and the military made me appreciate them. Yeah, definitely. I first off, I just before I go any further, I definitely appreciate your service. I think that is something that's not said nearly enough to people who have served in any capacity. And so, thank you first and foremost for your service. And I can see how, yeah, I can see how they would, uh, you could appreciate them. I've heard some. My wife, her father and stepmother are both retired Air Force. And so they both put in, I believe it was 26 years. And so he shared with me that there were a couple that he liked. And so, but outside of that, I've never actually tried one. So it may be something that's on the list of things to try and things to look into. And so I know that there are some different resources where you can buy them. But 2,500 calories per pouch. That's pretty good. I mean, they say the average person, I think, is supposed to be on, living on like a 1,500 to 2,000 calorie diet per day. That's if, I guess that's minimum. I don't, I don't eat 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day. Mine's a lot more, but I guess that could be a weight loss system for me. Could be worth it. So, and I do drink coffee, but it's not something I drink every single day. But that would be welcome. Um, I think the one thing I need to make sure to add to because I don't know how the flavor of the MREs are. I know you say some aren't bad, but I think I'm gonna have to add a little or maybe a big bottle of like Tabasco. Just saying. Um, I like hot sauce, so Tabasco, Louisiana hot sauce, something. and that'll definitely make the ones that aren't as good, that'll make them go down a little better. So, is that something that you store? Do you store MREs? They come with a tiny one. Nice. Okay, awesome. So, yeah, that's something I'll definitely consider. I think moving forward, yes. Okay, all right. So, what is a good? What is the best resource that you found so far to buy them? Is it just like Amazon, or is it eBay, or is it an individual company? Because yes, that's definitely something I'm going to think about. Um, I am going to start making my own jerky. I have a dehydrator that my lovely wife bought for me at Christmas time. So I'm going to start making my own jerky. And then I think what I'm going to have, I think I'm going to buy a vacuum sealer, and we're going to start making and storing our own jerky. So that will give us a good dried source of protein, because it's incredibly important that when you store your food, you got to think about, it's great to have 400 boxes of ramen noodles. That's great. um, College students live off of ramen noodles all the time, but you got to think about, for especially for extended periods of time, you got to think about nutrition. You got to think about getting enough nutrition for your body to stay in good shape, not necessarily like athletic shape, not necessarily like bodybuilder shape, but you got to keep your body eating enough calories, eating enough protein, and eating enough sugar in order for your body to metabolism. Excuse me, in order for your body to metabolize and to make or to gain energy. So you got to be able to get enough of protein, and so that is kind of the idea with the jerky. And we're going to store things like nuts, and I've already got a decent, I say decent, it's several jars of peanut butter, and so that was one of the other things that we went ahead and got. I love peanut butter already, so it's not a big deal. And so with the food and water, I think that's where we're going to spend most of our time, being that we have 7 people in our family. And so, which that brings us to our next issue. Oof. Our next issue is finding a place to store it. So, I don't know if you've seen some of the shows, if you several years ago showed Doomsday Preppers, where it was a big hit, and it may still be on. I've yet to see it recently. I've not seen it recently on TV, but some of these people have these massive like storage areas. That's not something we have, so we're going to have to really get creative in storing 21-day supply of food, 21-day supply of water, and how do we go about doing that? So be sure to check back for some videos, because I think I've got the Amazon. Okay, Amazon is good. CampingSurvival.com is good. And surplus store. That's one of the things that we really don't have around here. We don't have a surplus store. I know that there's an Army Navy surplus store in the Tyler area, and there's bound to be one in the Dallas area. I haven't looked, but just in our immediate kind of area, we don't have one. So I'm gonna have to branch out, because I do need some other supplies from the surplus stores as well. And I will definitely check out CampingSurvival.com. I'll definitely check that out. So Thank you for that. Um, let's see. So we've talked about food. We've talked about water. We've talked about heating, just briefly. We'll go more into detail as kind of the weeks go on, but so we've talked about those three things. We've talked about really just knowing your area, where you're at, what things could affect you, and that's definitely where to start. So that's what I would recommend is starting there, finding out what's going to affect you, and then kind of building everything else upon that. So for us, really what we're prepping for is, um, really loss of power. That's the main thing. And so we've got the heating thing covered. Um, I'll be looking into a generator and a way to store just minimal amounts of fuel. And then I'll be looking into solar. So those are items that I'll kind of have looked into a little bit more. But so from zero to homestead, what are you prepping for? What is the thing that you're preparing for? Also, I was saying that I looked at Walmart earlier, and I noticed that they had sort of a little area. This is like a camping slash survival kind of area. They had a few good items there. Just in this picture, you can see now they do have. I mean, machetes are great, but that's not. I mean, machete. Having a machete or a good knife is very important. But there are some other things that you can pick up here in this picture, and as well as this section. The folding shovel, if you were ever to need that in a camping situation. I was just really, more than anything, just kind of shocked that Walmart actually had a few things. I've got some other pictures and different things there. Of course, they carry like paracord and things like that. So it really just shocked me that they had, a little area kind of devoted to that. Oh, okay, so natural disasters, yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, and I totally get that. Uh, from zero to homestead, so obviously natural disasters as well, but just anything that is out of my control. We're at the end of the line and are always the last to get power restored. Yes, definitely. I will share that um, our power companies around here aren't they're not that great. I know, and in some areas a little bit further east, they have a different power company, and if someone sneezes, the power goes out. So that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but the company that's a little east of us, that I mean, the power goes out a lot, and so that's definitely, yeah, I completely understand there. Uh, and we've been on the wrong end of that. We've been on the end of it where we were without power for several days because of where we were located. And so completely understand that. That's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff that we should be prepping for is not impending zombies or anything like that, but just stuff, natural disasters, things we can't control. And and our society right now, and I'll give you an example. My daughter, I love my daughter dearly. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And then, of course, we have the other kids as well. Our other kids are 7, 3, 2, and 1. Yes. So we say that again. We have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 7, and a 12-year-old. And so our 12-year-old is very, and this is my fault to an extent, um, but she is very dependent on electricity. So, and I honestly, I don't know what kid or what almost teenager isn't nowadays. If you think about it, we all have phones. Um, I have a tablet. It's a Windows Surface. We all have um, a ton of electronic devices, and I love her to death. But she watches Netflix all the time, and her heart is going to break if we go again or go without power for a limit, for an extended period of time. She will not know what to do. Um, she is a very active person, but because we've lived in an urban setting for so long, she is not the person that you hand a pocket knife to and say, go out into the woods or go do this, or even just go outside, play, I'll see you later. Um, when I was growing up, and I, my dad would tell me to go outside, and he didn't want to see me again until it got dark. So I would go outside, and I would be able to do tons of different things. So the power going out is really not that big of a deal to me. Obviously, I won't be able to live stream or do anything like that, but ultimately, that's not going to kill me. I would almost much rather be outside in the woods in the middle of nowhere than be connected to anything. So, but my sweet daughter is she's gonna have a rough time, and so is my wife. They're both very much uh, connected, if you will, to Facebook and all of that, and into Netflix, and so power is a huge thing, and we take that thing for granted. I mean, we take getting up in the morning and turning on the light switch, we take that for granted, and so definitely something to think about when we prep for those situations is, what are we going to do? I mean, and the thing is what little activities. That's the thing. Like, I have 5 kids, and so my wife and I, we have to not only stop and think about, um, food, water, you know, heat, all of those things, but we have to stop and think about, okay, we have 5 kids. What are these kids going to be doing without without TV? Or I will say that our younger kids, we really don't do, we don't just plop them down in front of the TV and say, hey, here, this is your baby. So we don't do that like some people do. But, what are these 5 kids going to be doing with the power out? And so that's something else we have to think about. What kind of activities can we be doing with them to, have them have some normalcy? And so it's definitely an interesting thing. So, okay, so your 10-year-old is no good sport when the power is out either. Definitely understand that. Um, it's kind of interesting. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't have tablets. I mean, I didn't get a cell phone until I was in my 20s. And so before that, I could go and be out in the woods and come back and all of that, and you wouldn't. I mean, I was good, and so I see that it doesn't bother you at all, and that's awesome. And I think we need to get back to that a little bit. So that's one of the reasons we're looking for our own land, our own homestead, that is our forever homestead. And so, don't get me wrong, my 12-year-old is very independent, very smart, very responsible. Um, you can tell her, okay, I need you to go into the store. I need you to get these 3 things. And she will be able to do it. She can, no problem. She has her own phone. She's very responsible, very, very smart, very, very, has a lot of common sense. Um, and, she's athletic and all of that as well. Um, but, you know, whew, when you start thinking about, different skills, that's what I was saying earlier, reading a map. If you handed a map to my 12-year-old daughter and said, hey, so I need you to look at this map and I need you to tell me about how far it is from this town to this town. That's just not something they teach in school. They have geography in school and that's great. But, we depend so much on GPS when we go places and all of that she wouldn't be able to tell you. They have a little legend down on a map most cases, and she wouldn't be able to use that little scale, if you will, to tell me how far. And so that's the skills that we need to be passing on to our children so that they can pass them on to their children. There's a big disconnect there. And I'm guilty of it. So, but that is something that is going to change. My daughter, she can cook. We have worked on that. She can cook a number of things. And so we're slowly starting to get those skills passed along, at least some of them. And we're going to keep working toward it. Okay, so that's your mission too. Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely understand. So you're looking for your own homestead as well. That's awesome. Definitely keep me posted. Um, I appreciate you being here from Zero to Homestead. I really do. I hope the best for your wood chip delivery. Sounds like you got some work ahead of you, but I appreciate you being here. Um, jump on over to the Facebook and join our Facebook group. Share what you're doing on your homestead and share your journey with us there as well. I appreciate it, and have a good day. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at. Um, we're just kind of evaluating uh, what we're doing right now and trying to figure out, you know, what can be improved on, what we need to store, and in what quantities. We're trying to get better about some of the skills that we have and the things that we're passing on to our children. Um, we definitely want to be well rounded in our prepping, and then that's my advice for anyone that would be watching or anybody that would come back and watch the live stream replay is to just think about the things that you're doing now and think about how you can improve upon it. Think about the natural disasters that could happen in your area and think about how you could prepare for them. And so think about what you need to store, what quantity you need to store it in, where you're going to store it, and think about, it's not only storing what you need, but also knowing, what to do with it when that time comes, and being able to educate your kids, your family on, this is what we're going to do in this situation. Have a plan. Know where to go if you have to evacuate. Know what you need to take with you. And that's something else we'll be looking at in coming weeks. We'll be looking at go bags. We'll be looking at bug out bags, whatever you want to call them, and how to design those for yourself as an adult. How to design that and put those together for your kids. If you have kids, things that you definitely want to include in your bag. We'll be looking at everyday carries, and things of that sort. What kind of stuff you should have on you every day, and just looking at how to be better about being prepped or prepared for what we have that could happen. And so I want to take this time right now once again to send out our prayers and our thoughts to the people affected by Florence. And I just pray that God will use this opportunity uh, to draw you closer to Him. And I just pray that for your health and for your well-being. And I just pray that you would use this time, use this opportunity to grow closer with your family, to grow closer to God. And I pray that we could all learn from it. We could all learn from uh, this situation and how to be better prepared and how to be better equipped for those things. And so, once again, if you want to come over and join us on our social media, you can check us out here on these social media links. I will say that the two most active accounts there, we're active on all of them, but the two most active accounts are going to be Facebook and Instagram. We post pretty much daily updates. Hey, RG Homestead, how are you? Hey, there's Papa Truck. Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, yeah, definitely check us out on our social media. Check us out. I will say that, like I said, the most active of the accounts are Facebook and Instagram. Sort of the plan there is it's real super easy to take a picture of whatever we're doing and posting it on Instagram. So as we start to put together kind of our food storage and our preps, and we'll be posting a lot of pictures. And so the same thing goes for our bug out bags and our everyday carries and all of those sorts of things. We'll be posting pictures and we'll be posting contents and all of that stuff over there. Also, you can check us out over on our Facebook group. Hey, RG, we're doing really great. We're doing really great. It's been another great day here. How's the weather? I know we talked at length about that the other day. So it is still hot. It was actually 100 degrees here yesterday, and so I was joking this time last week and saying that our weather was uh, fall weather because it was in the low 90s. But yeah, yesterday was at 100 degrees, so shame on me. I think I jinxed it. So yeah, there's our Facebook group. Join us over there. Share what you're doing on your homestead. Share what you're doing to be prepped over there. And so definitely would love to have you there. So something else I'm super excited about. Um, I will be in less than a week, less than 1 week. I will be taking my ham radio technician test. So yes, this is not my radio setup. This was definitely just borrowed from Google. But in less than a week, I'm going to be taking my ham radio test. And so just to get my technician license, but I'm super excited about that. I don't know if anyone else here has used ham radio before or is interested in it, but I am definitely interested in it. I downloaded an app. I've made a video about it. You can definitely check that video out. But I talked about how I'm studying for it, as well as uh, when it is. I think it is 1 week away. So, yeah. Um, okay, so he moved to the mid 80s, mid 50s at night. Oh, it's changing fast. I hear you. Yeah, it's changing fast. I wish it would change just a little bit faster here. I say that, and then when it gets super cold, I'll be like, no, where's my 70 degrees at? Yeah, I've kind of thought that about the ham radio, that it would kind of hit my wallet. But after looking, and I talk about this a little bit in my video that I put up this week, uh, or that I'm going to be putting up this week. Excuse me. I don't think I put it up yet. But you know, I need to find a budget friendly, a wallet friendly ham radio. And so I actually posted on Facebook, and I had a couple of suggestions. One from Jeff, the Homestead Dad. And so I think that's the route I'm going to be going. And yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely RG. Yeah, I know. I regretted it the second I said it out of my mouth. Um, so, because I know that's going to be the thing for me too. I'm going to be kicking myself when it's cold. Um, but yeah, so I'm definitely going to be taking my test next week for my ham radio technician license. And I've been studying, and I think I'm doing pretty well. So we're going to see. The radio that I'm looking at right now is, I think, about $80. And, it's just a starter radio. It's nothing, nothing to this, nothing to this level. I mean, I couldn't tell you, looking at this setup, how much was invested there. Like I said, I borrowed this from Google, um, but I couldn't tell you how much was invested in this setup. But I know that the radio that I'm looking at, I think, is about $80. It's a Baofeng handheld, and so I think it's going to cover what I'm looking for. I think it's going to suit my needs, and then I'll just start, building upon that as I learn. Because the plan is to go ahead and take my technician test, and then go ahead and go back and take my general, and then go back and get my amateur extra. Just go the whole way with it. And so I'm interested in it because it's going to provide another way of communication. I mean, we all have cell phones, and they're great. You can make YouTube videos with them. You can FaceTime with people. You can do all sorts of things with this. But if you can't charge this, if you can't, if there's not any towers up and running, then it's going to be hard for you to talk to someone. And so that's kind of my whole purpose in doing the ham radio, is to, have a way of communication. If the power goes out, if towers go down, all of that sort of stuff. But also, I think it's just going to be fun. I think I'm just going to have a blast talking with people from local areas, but also, I mean, you can talk to people from across the world if you have the right setup. And so definitely, definitely can't wait to do that. It's going to be fun. Yes, you're going a 2 meter band. You can make your own antenna with a copper wire to start with. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'm completely new to it, so it's something I'm definitely going to have to research a little bit along the way, and just kind of learn as I go. So I'm looking forward to it. It's just another skill that I'm trying to learn, and so I'm pretty stoked about it. So that pretty much does it for the live stream today. we are going to be looking at kind of this topic along the way on Thursday mornings. So, yeah, definitely Papa Truck. The local militia could use another ham operator, definitely. Um, I don't know what the local militia looks like here, uh, because, like I said, we've been in. I don't know how familiar you are with us, but we are in a suburb of Dallas, the great state, the great Republic of Texas, if you will. And so we are not originally from this town or from this area. We're actually further. We're actually from further east, in the Canton area. It's only about another 30 minutes east, but so I don't know what that local militia looks like, but it would definitely be a good skill set for you, or for me, or for anyone else to really have, is to know how to use a ham radio. And um, you know, like I said before, if towers go down, can't use a cell phone, what else are you going to use to communicate? There are other options. I mean, without using ham radio, you could use a carrier pigeon, the Pony Express. I mean, I think ham radio is probably the most efficient of those three choices. Yeah, and I will definitely be trying to look up some ham radio clubs in the area. The place that I'm going to test is just 30 minutes up the road, and they meet at a local church. They meet at a local church, and that's actually where I'll be taking my test, is at that church. And I believe that they have a club there. I would like to find one a little bit closer, as that, like I said, that's 30 minutes away, but definitely something to look into. So yeah. Don't forget CB. Yeah, definitely. CB is an option. I use them every single day. We use CB radios every single day. For the people that are here that don't know, I am a school bus driver. I got into that job several years ago. This is my 5th year. And I got into that job because I was looking for something that wasn't trying to kill me. Before that, I was a chef, and I worked 80 to 85 hours a week. And, I would go to work before my family got up, and I would get home after they went to bed. And so I decided that was too much. And so I got into school bus driving because it was something that really had, sort of a flexible schedule. And so, long story short, we use CBs on a daily basis, and I have been using CBs for my whole life. My dad used to have a CB, and so he showed us how to use it, and all of that. So it's definitely a good option. Um, for local, definitely a great option. Um, I will. I definitely will. So yeah, I think it's it's either the 26th or the 27th. I might have to look at it again, but I think I'll be good. I'll definitely let you know how it goes. If you're not familiar with the test, they're only about 35 to 37 questions. And I downloaded a book on Kindle, and between the book that I have on Kindle and the Android app that was recommended to me, I think I'm going to be fine. I think it'll be fairly easy. It seems pretty straightforward. It doesn't seem like there are going to be any sort of really hangups, if you will, on it. I think it'll be fine. So I'll definitely let you know. And then, of course, once I start getting a radio set up, and however I go about that and that journey, I'll definitely share that with you as well. So that's going to be just about it. If you have any questions, uh, go over to If you think of any questions throughout the week, go over to my Facebook page, Backyard Eden, and just drop those questions on the wall. And next week we'll be right back here, same time, same place, and we will be talking about food storage a little bit more in depth, what you should have, how much you should have, and where to start. So I hope you enjoyed the stream. I thank everybody that showed up for being here, and I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, also, hey, don't forget, also, I just remembered, if you want to check us out on Tuesday night, we also have a live stream on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we talk about things that we're doing on the homestead and what's going on and kind of our plans. And so, but definitely join us then. And then again, back here on Thursday. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, remember, be prepared. I'll see y'all later.